Spontanus from Paris is going to tell us how we should actually do it and what the benefits and drawbacks of each technique. If this is stage to 12 minutes.
When I was to toilets with Soren, he said 15 minutes.
3 minutes for discussion.
Okay. So, thank you. So, I just want to thank Evangelos again for this meeting. I'm always happy to be here. I think that maybe we have, in the previous speaker, some slides were the same, but anyway, I will try to give some other information. So, we know that when we have a TME, we need, if we want to try to save the sphincter, to make the low anastomosis, whatever colorectal or coloanal. And in order to understand the question of the outcome, I think that I will speak mainly about leakage and function. Just to keep in mind what is the best method to do a TME. And I just saw this paper published last year in Annals of Surgery about laparoscopy. It's a national survey in US, which demonstrates that it's better to do this operation by laparoscopy. Because you know that 1 year ago, 2 years ago, there is some debate with JAMA papers about laparoscopy. And this paper clearly demonstrates that even for mortality and long-term death rates, the best result is by laparoscopy. So we need to do by laparoscopy. Here you have the multivariate analysis with a significant reduction of mortality if you do by laparoscopy versus open surgery. The second information is that you don't need to do by robotic. You know this paper, the Rollard trial, we have exactly the same results by laparoscopy and robots. So we have no need to spend money to use the robots if you want to do a lab TME. The third thing, when you do your lab TME, you know the GRECAR5 study from Contendonos within the room. We don't need anymore to put pelvic drain after the end of the anastomosis, because this nice randomized study published last year clearly demonstrates that you have no difference on sepsis, pelvic sepsis rates between with or without drain. So easier operation, no more drain for lab TME. But the last and maybe the most important debate is which anastomosis. And if you see the rectum, you will see very easily that here it's high rectal cancer, mid rectal cancer or high low rectal cancer, easy stapled anastomosis. Here there is no discussion, we need to do manual anastomosis. And here you have a kind of no man's land or dangerous zone where you can try to do stapling, but it can be very difficult. And when it's difficult, you have this paper from Korea which clearly demonstrates that if you put more than 3 firings when you do a stapler, you will increase the rate of leakage. So in this case, it's probably better to not to do the operation by above, but to do from below and to do a manual anastomosis if it's a difficult, expected difficult stapling technique. If you, as Zoran said previously, whatever the operations that you perform, you will have the same rate of leakage, the same morbidity. The only difference concerns the function. And with this meta-analysis published 3 years ago in British Journal of Surgery, there is a clear benefit of J-pouch and side-to-end anastomosis if you do a low pelvic anastomosis. So today, the consensus is to do both J-pouch and side-to-end, but for most of the colorectal surgeons, if you do by laparoscopy, most of them do a side-to-end anastomosis. And the worst situation is to do a straight anastomosis. But if it's a lower tumor, you need to do, as Quentin showed previously, you need to do intersphincteric resection with partial or subtotal internal sphincter resection. Just to continue the debate, because there is a big debate between APR and very low anastomosis. And I'm sure that Soren says that maybe it's better to have a good colostomy than a bad function with very low anastomosis. But to be honest, in France, if you ask to French people, 95% will prefer to try a low anastomosis than a direct APR. maybe it's a surprise for you, but for my country, if I say, okay, you will have probably a bad function or a definitive stoma, what do you want? He say, I try the bad function. No discussion. So it's difficult to propose directly APR. But the benefit of intersphincteric resection, if it fails, you can always go back to APR. If you do APR, it's impossible to go back to intersphincteric resection. Anyway, if we talk about outcome, we have two main problems. It's the bad function and it's anastomotic leakage. And sometimes you have both at the same time. You know the last score, and we know because of Sorens that we have a great proportion of patients with very bad function after low anastomosis. Which is good, and the patient must wait, is that it improves with time. And you see, for example, this paper that at 12 months, result is better than after 3 months. So we need to wait the improvement, the spontaneous improvement of the function. Second thing is that if you do intersphincteric resection, the function will be worse. In this paper, which is a very optimistic paper, they say 50% of patients with good continence, which is impossible with intersphincteric resection, but it's probably 50% of patients with acceptable continence, but in the real life. But anyway, no discussion. If you do a very, very low anastomosis, the function will be worse. So what do you do with these patients? I think we need to be patient. Because it improves with time. We need to check by digital examination if there is no stenosis, because if you delay the stenosis, you will improve the function, no discussion. And we need to give some medication in try to improve, to try to improve the function. But probably the most important thing is maybe to discuss rehabilitation program, as we discussed before. And we have performed in my group a small study, not randomized study, which seems to demonstrate that it improves the function. And you have here the review by André Dor, published a few years ago, with all this study, including ours, with improvement in some study with rehabilitation program after low anastomosis. And in the same paper, you see that the main issue is to propose maybe pelvic floor re-education, and if it fails, you have some other things to do to this patient. But probably, especially if you have a very low anastomosis, you need to discuss systematic rehabilitation program in this kind of patient. The second thing is the leakage. You have this kind of asymptomatic leakage. What is the impact of quality of life and function on this asymptomatic leakage? Here you have a recent paper published last year in Annals from Amsterdam, which clearly demonstrates that leakage rate increase with neoadjuvant treatment and very low anastomosis. It's not a surprise, but it's a very large study. We have performed in my group a study of last score according to the absence of presence of leakage, and you see that very quickly, even if you close the stoma, but in the past history you have a leakage in the postoperative period. If you have a symptomatic leakage, you have a very high rate of severe symptoms and major last scores, which is significantly higher than a patient without leakage. And same problem with leakage. Besides the bad function, you increase also the rate of local recurrence. So for this reason, to have leakage after TME is a very bad thing for both things, poor function and poor oncologic outcome. So for these reasons, we need to try to prevent leakage, to try to reduce leakage rate, is what we discussed before. There is some stuff to discuss. The first thing I think is bowel prep and oral antibiotics, and I think I don't agree fully with oral. I think that there is a big debate today with oral antibiotics. We performed this study a few years ago without oral antibiotics, which demonstrates that we need to do a bowel prep. But you know that since a few years ago, many papers, non-randomized or randomized, were published about oral antibiotics. And you see the big impact on anastomotic leak and surgical site infection if you add only oral antibiotics. So, big debate today, to add or not to add oral antibiotics. Second thing, we need to do a temporary stoma. You know, there is some debate about temporary stoma after TME, but if you do this stoma, you will reduce leakage rates. And most importantly, it's from the Dutch trial, if you say, I don't put stoma, but at day 5, if there is some sepsis, no problem, I will put a stoma in few patients and it's a good solution, it's a bad solution. If you take the paper from the Dutch trial, you see that after primary stoma, the risk of long-term failure is less than 20%. If you put secondary stoma only if sepsis, you have 50% of failure. So if you decide to put a stoma, you put at the time of the TME and not a few days later. Finally, there is another debate concerning rectal tube. There is a lot of Chinese study which seems to demonstrate that if you put only a rectal tube, I don't know how it works, maybe by decompression, you reduce the rate of leakage. There is even a meta-analysis, so maybe we need more study, but maybe it's interesting. And last slide is concerning transanal TME. We discussed about the new anastomosis without dog ear. We need more evidence, we need more study, but maybe it's the future of the good anastomosis. So in conclusion, we can say that after TME for mid and low rectal cancer, you can do stapler or manual anastomosis according to the level of the tumor. You need to do a J-pouch or a side-to-end. You need to do a manual anastomosis instead of a very difficult stapler with more than 3 firings. You will get a back function and you will get high rate of leakage. So for both reasons, you need to propose maybe systematic rehabilitation program, and you need optimal prevention to try to reduce leak rates by bowel prep, maybe with oral antibiotics, by temporary stoma. We don't know rectal tube, and we don't know transanal TME with a new anastomosis without dog ear. Thank you very much.
That was just perfect. Really comprehensive lecture, right on time, really, really good. Thank you. 1 or 2 questions before we end this session. Søren, as always, has something to say.
Panis, I think we more or less agree completely. Nearly the only difference is then in Denmark, the patient would say, what would you recommend? And in my opinion, with ultra-low cancers who have had neoadjuvant therapy, you know, there's a substantial risk of leakage, there's a substantial risk of bad function, and I would generally, advise them to have a stoma.
I agree with you, but you know, in France, if I say to the patient, we need to do APR for the tumor, he will never refuse, or almost never. So it's easy to accept APR if it's for the tumor. But if it's only for the function, and I explain the problem with leak, with all the quality of life problem, I think maybe we can ask also to Quentin, who work in France, I think the great majority of the patients prefer to try. And in my department, I think 10 to 15% of the patients want to go back after a few years to definitive stoma because of failure, functional failure.
I think this is more a cultural problem than a surgical or medical problem. We have quite the opposite in Sweden. If I tell my patient your function will be really poor and show them some results, I said, okay, I'll go for a stoma, but maybe with irrigation afterwards. So,
and we have also a lot of patients from Algeria. And all Muslim patients from Algeria, if you put a definitive stoma, it will be very difficult for the social life of the patients. So.
And I think it's extremely, and that's my end for this session, you should start to recognize the problems and have a rehabilitation program. Last question.
The last question is that you said that it's only a matter of function, but before you said that when we have a leakage, we have a bad oncological outcome also. So it's not a matter of function only. When you explain to the patient, is the case that he will have a bad oncological outcome if he has a leakage.
Yes, but if you never do anastomosis, you will never have leakage.
Yes.
That's our point.
Okay, why do you select? I mean, excuse me, you don't treat the same way the male young patient with an old granny, which is 80-year-old with 3 births in her life. I mean, you have to offer, you have to explain that the rate of having a permanent stoma is not 10 or 15%, it's much higher.
But for example, for an old woman, 80 years old, even if it's a mid-rectal cancer with easy anastomosis, I will do APR. Because of the function, no discussion. No
Okay,
discussion.
thank you very much.